I'm Stephen, USSR Robinson, and you're watching Sport Icons. Papa!
Okay, so unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, you will be fully aware that this weekend, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Williams at the Moat Point Arena in Cardiff, Wales. Of course, Liam Williams is from that neck of the woods. Now, I'm going to be talking about the main event and the entire card on this particular video. Now, I will be there this weekend. Of course, Stephen Robinson, one of my best pals, is going to be fighting on this undercard. So, of course, I'm going to talk about him, of course, with Mark Clazel and whatever else. So, actually, we'll start off with Stephen Robinson, actually. So, he's going to be making his 5th professional fight. Last time out, of course, he stopped Reece Barlow in the first round. It's like a highlight reel knockout. Will he do the same against Shane Gill? Shane Gill has had one professional fight and lost that one on points to Franklin Ignatius. Now, of course, I have watched that fight with Stephen being my pal, and now his opponent. I'm always going to be checking it out. Now, this wasn't the original plan. It wasn't. The original plan was DL Jones. But Shane Gill, one fight, one loss on points. I mean, how good is Franklin Ignatius? I don't know. Maybe he's going to be one of the big players in the heavyweight division in a couple of years to come. We don't know. And maybe he just took in the distance. Stephen, of course, he could have fought somebody with like 4 or 5 wins and 75 losses. He could have done that. And people would have been okay with it because obviously it's only his 5th professional fight. But he doesn't want those kind of ones. He does want ones who will look at him and think, you know what, if I beat Stephen, then maybe I'm going to get a Boxer Sky Sports contract. So Steve is always going to have to be making sure that he don't slip up. But anything can happen in boxing. But of course, listen, it's not because of my power, but I fully believe in Stephen Robinson. He's an absolute unit. He really is. If he hits you, you go to sleep. Very, very simple. Now, Caroline Dubois, she'll be making her professional debut. Sister of Dan Dubois, of course, and part of the Team GB at the Olympic Games. Now, she's going to be taking on Vaida Masakate. Now, Vaida Masakate, she has got a few losses, only 2 wins, 14 losses. Only stopped once with For George. She's from Lithuania. She has been fighting some, if you follow women's boxing, of course, you will know them, in Rihanna Dixon. She lost to her. She lost on points to Natasha Jonas. She lost on points to Ebony Jones. That was Ebony Jones' professional debut. She lost to one of my good friends in Jordan Barker Porter. Again, that was Jordan's professional debut. And, of course, with quite a few others. So she's been around a bit. She's certainly going to be giving Caroline Dubois rounds, you would presume. So it's going to be good to see her, that's for sure. Harlem Eubank trains under Adam Booth in the same stable as Liam Williams and quite a few others. In fact, one of them I'm looking to catch up with this weekend, who's actually from Newcastle. I'll keep you all posted on that one. Anyway, Harlem Eubank, of course, he's a Wasserman fighter, but 12-0 brother of Chris Eubank Jr., of course. So that's kind of interesting, really, isn't it? That Harlem Eubank trains with Adam Booth. Adam Booth is training Liam Williams to fight Chris Eubank Jr. How does this work out? That's weird, isn't it? Anyway, so as I said, 12-0, he's going to be taking on Vorial Simone. Now, you may have heard that name. Obviously, he lost to Zelfa Barrett. But quite some time ago, he's been in there with Scott Quigg. That's the first time I ever heard of him. And, of course, he's been in there with Shakur Stevenson as well. He's an okay fighter, 22 wins and 7 defeats. So, at this stage of Harlem Eubank's career, 12-0, that's not bad. That's not a bad opponent, is it? So, we do have to give Harlem Eubank a lot of credit for taking this step up in some ways, very short career. Otto Wallin will be on this card. Why is Otto Wallin on this card, you may ask? Well, I did a video on that one and I put it down to maybe he could be fighting, say, a Boxer Sky Sports heavyweight. The only 2 names that really stand out at this stage of their career could be either Hughie Fury or Nathan Gorman. But also, of course, as I mentioned in the video, it could be that this show is not just a Sky Sports boxer show, it's also with Salita Promotions, Dimitri Salita, who, of course, promotes Claressa Shields. So maybe that's why Otto Wallin is on this card. Anyway, he's going to be taking on, I always feel reluctant to call him a journeyman, but he is in Camille Sokolowski. Now, Camille Sokolowski, he's been in there with pretty much everybody, and a lot of the times, especially when it goes to points, he tends to get robbed. Okay? That just seems to be his luck in life when it comes to boxing. But he does have some pretty good wins on his resume. George Fox, last time out, beat George Fox. He was an undefeated 4-0 prospect Frank Warren fighter. Camille Sokolowski beat him quite convincingly, to be honest with you. In my opinion, he should have got the decision over David Adelaide. For those of you who watched that one, David Adelaide lost that fight. Not being funny, but he lost that fight. But they jobbed Camille Sokolowski. Much like Sokolowski, he defeated Lucas Brown as well. But they didn't give Lucas Brown, sorry, they didn't give Camille Sokolowski the decision. They gave it to Lucas Brown. Why? Because he was just about to fight Dillian Whyte. Or was it Dave Allen? I forget exactly which one it was. But either way, that's why Sokolowski got jobbed. But he is somewhat of a journeyman and a bit of a slippery opponent. He's tough and he carries decent power. You know, he stopped Naylor Bull, who was undefeated at the time. Beat Nick Webb and that as well. So, could be potentially a banana skin for Otto Wallin. So, if Otto Wallin doesn't really know too much about Camille Sokolowski, yes, it's Sweden versus Poland, even though Sokolowski does have British nationality, of course. But Sweden, for their heavyweights, pretty decent, I suppose. And Otto Wallin, of course, is certainly leading the charge with that one. Of course, his fight last time out collapsed with Dillian Whyte when Dillian Whyte got injured. Yes, he genuinely got injured. Don't care what you say, he did. So this is a 6-rounder. It's unusual for Otto Wallin, who's a championship round fighter, to be fighting 6 rounds. But that's what it's going to be. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on with Camille Sokolowski. Reece Edwards, 11-0. Featherweight can be taken on Ruslan Burchuk. I don't know who Ruslan Burchuk is, but 13 wins and 13 defeats. Unlucky for him, right? But Reece Edwards is 11-0. I don't know too much about him, to be honest with you. I mean, I've heard of him, of course I have, but I don't really recall too much. In fact, wasn't he with Dennis Hobson? He may still be with Dennis Hobson, I don't know. I think that's pretty much where I know his name. But either way, he's going to be having an 8-rounder. Chris Jenkins. Now, he's a good fighter. I do like him. Welterweight. He does have 4 defeats. Now, he's going to be taking on former world champion Julius Indongo. Again, you've probably heard of that name. If you're not too familiar, he defeated Ricky Burns to become world champion. And then straight afterwards, he had that undisputed fight with Terence Crawford. I think that he quit in that fight, I will be honestly. But since then, he's only had, 4 fights and only won 1. Now, Julius Indongo, don't get me wrong, he has been fighting some pretty decent opposition, of course, like Regis Progress. Of course, you have to fully expect him to lose that one, and a Daniil Yelusinov as well. But this is his opportunity to bounce back. Now, Chris Jenkins, I think a lot of people do think that he could go on and do some pretty good things in the sport of boxing. He does have a record of 22 wins, 4 defeats and 3 draws, but ultimately, as I always say, your defeats and your draws and whatever else, make sure that the L is not for a loss, the L is for a learning curve. And I think Chris Jenkins will hopefully be doing that. Now, last time out, he did get stopped by Eko Eastman, who's currently undefeated, of course. And that was for the Commonwealth and British welterweight titles. So, no shame whatsoever in losing to him. But he does have a couple of good wins, like a Johnny Garton and a Paddy Gallagher, and Paddy Gallagher a good win? Maybe. Again, he lost on a technical decision as well to Akin Ennis-Brown. Now, it's going to be an interesting fight. It is going to be interesting. Is Julius Indongo, is he shot? Was he overrated? I don't know. That's for you to decide, I suppose. But obviously, I want Chris Jenkins to get this win. Now, Samuel Antwi, 13 wins with 1 defeat. He's going to be taking on Conor Walker. Now, of course, a lot of you will already be familiar with Antwi anyway. Pretty decent puncher. Out of his 13 wins, he has stopped 6 opponents. He does have 1 loss where he did get stopped in round number 2 against an undefeated guy called Colombo. But he defeated Jezza Smith. Again, I'm not trying to teach any of you how to suck eggs. Of course, a lot of you will already know that. And of course, he stopped Darren Tetley as well. But Conor Walker. Now, Conor Walker is a good fighter. He is. He's currently undefeated. He does have a draw, but officially he is undefeated. He did defeat Jack Eubank, not a relation to Chris Eubank or anything like that, because it's spelled different, Ewbank. Now, Jack Eubank was 4-0 at that particular time. And pretty much since that fight, since he lost to Conor, he's turned into a journeyman. That seems to be the way. In fact, I filmed one of Jack's last fights when he fought Joe Laws at the Rating Arena over there in Sunderland. So he's a decent opponent. I think that a Conor Walker is actually a very good fighter. Is he an MTK fighter? I don't know if he's MTK or not. I'm not too sure. But he is a decent fighter. Who's going to win this one, to be honest with you, I really, really don't know. Honestly, I don't know. And this, by the way, this will be for the British English title. Not British English, but English welterweight title. I'm just seeing the British Box Border Control. But interesting. Claressa Shields in the co-main event or chief support, depending on how you look at it. Claressa Shields, of course, multi-weight world champion, only 11 fights in. So looking really, really good. This will be a preliminary fight, all going through this one. Savannah Marshall wins her next one. These two are meant to be getting it on. Is actually signed? I don't know. But she's going to be taking on Emma Kozin. Now, Emma Kozin is 21 wins and 0 defeats, 1 draw. Kozin, I don't know too much. I mean, if anybody is familiar with her, it's always going to be Julius at Ring IQ. I know that she did defeat Maria Lindberg, who I have heard of. And the reason I've heard of her is because she just fought Hannah Rankin. And that was for the vacant WBA world title. But again, she lost to Savannah Marshall as well. But decent opponent for Claressa Shields. I would fully expect her to come through. She's very, very confident. If she slips up, then I would presume that Savannah Marshall fight is well and truly off the table, or at least for the foreseeable future. Okay, so it is going to be interesting to see Claressa Shields out and about. And of course, the main event, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Williams. As I said before, isn't it interesting that you got Liam Williams, who of course now left Dominic Ingle and is now with Adam Booth. Adam Booth trains Chris Eubank Jr.'s brother, Harlem Eubank. Isn't that weird? But Liam Williams is a good fighter. We all know he's a good fighter, and his losses are all at the high end, aren't they? You know, you've got like a Demetrius Andrade, of course, and Liam Smith, what have you. So he's not a guy who's going to be shying away from a challenge. Now, he is the home fighter in the sense of it's going to be in Cardiff, Wales. Of course, he's Welsh. Now, would it be a surprise that Liam Williams wins this fight? Listen, history will tell you that Welshmen do have victories over Eubanks. Chris Eubank Jr.'s dad lost to Joe Calzaghe, if you remember that one. But anyway, of course, that is what it is. This is now Chris Eubank Jr. I've always rated Chris Eubank Jr. I always have. I know he is a little bit like his dad. He's a little bit like Marmite. You either really like him or you really don't like him. I like him personally. I do. And Chris Eubank Jr., I think, can he stop Liam Williams? Yeah, he can. Can Liam Williams stop Chris Eubank Jr.? I don't know, because I haven't really seen anything Chris Eubank Jr. that would suggest that he has a bit of a rocky chin. Don't be wrong, all boxers always have that button. Of course they do. But if Liam Williams wants to get in there and just fight dirty and trade, this is going to be bread and butter for Chris Eubank Jr. with those uppercuts. He's got some of the best uppercuts in the game, in my opinion. Now, who's going to be the favourite for this fight? I imagine it's probably going to be Chris Eubank Jr. Now, Chris Eubank Jr., of course, he has got 2 losses on his resume, for sure. 1 to Billy Joe Saunders and the other one to George Groves, where he was in both fights. And, of course, especially in the George Groves fight, he did show a tremendous amount of heart. Obviously, he was bust up pretty bad in that one. But it's going to be a good fight. Very, very good. I know there was rumours that it's going to be on Sky Sports box office on pay-per-view. But no, it's not. It's going to be on your regular Sky Sports. And by the way, I'm led to believe that pretty much the entire undercard is going to be on YouTube as well, on the Sky Sports YouTube channel as well. So anyway, drop your thoughts below about it. Click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.